Hello, welcome to Ham Nation, episode 611 for November 19th, 2025. And hello, everybody. Thanks for coming out to Ham Nation here on the Ham Radio Crash Course. Got a really big show for you. Maybe. We got some news on that, which we'll talk about shortly. But we are going to be talking to Hamsai. I'm super excited about that. Great to have him on the show. So let's just go ahead and bring in the host and say hello to everybody. Hello, hosts. How's it going?
Hello, Josh. Hello.
Hello.
Yes. So, Randy, how are you doing? You got a lot to talk about, but maybe we hit that ISS thing right up front because I mentioned it in the title. What's going on with the ISS?
Oh, yeah, here's all my passes. Here's all my passes.
Oh.
They scrubbed.
What happened?
They scrubbed the event. After 2 hours, the radio quit working. I guess it would only transmit for like 2 or 4 seconds or something. So,
wow.
You think they
such
killed
a shame.
it? You think they killed the radio? Do you think it's...
I don't know. Well, they said they have a spare, but it's not set up for SSTV, whatever that means. So
that means they don't have a ham on board, is what that means. That's what.
Well,
that
they got
means.
a lot of hams on board, but they're all 99% busy with non-ham stuff. So we get the lowest priority, I think.
Yeah.
So
well,
otherwise,
okay. Sorry, kids. I will mention just for the fun of it. I was like, can I track the ISS with my N76? And I can, and it actually lets me track the SSTV, which I'm showing the frequency there, and you can see the Doppler shift. So that is working. Well, I got like 1,000 other projects on the table. That's going okay. So hey, that's fun too. But yeah, thank you, Randy, for joining us. You got many other things to talk about, so we'll be talking to you shortly.
We'll find something else.
Yeah, Gordo, what are you up to?
We're headed for space tonight, and we're going to be up about 50 miles, and we're going to see what's happening to the peak of the solar cycle right now on 10 meters, but 10 meters FM.
All right.
Ooh, interesting.
And Don, how are you doing this evening?
I am good. We have had some interesting solar stuff going on here lately, and we have got a report from Dr. Tabitha Scove that is so new, it just 5 seconds ago finished uploading to the Dropbox for Josh to pull up. So, yeah, we've got some very, very timely news about the X-class solar flares that were going off, and I haven't even had a chance to see it. She just sent it to me, and I produced the video real quick and uploaded it, so I'll be watching it for the first time along with you. So I can't wait for that, and of course, we'll have the news of the week from Amateur Radio Newsline as well.
Yeah, it's so hot, it's burning. So hot.
It is. It is.
Amanda, how are you doing today?
I am fantastic. I'm excited to see if we have another hot mess in our hands from Dr. T, first of all. But let's see. I've got Gary on from HamSci, so I'm looking forward to that interview. He's going to be telling us all about what they do. And I'll have Ham It or Can It tonight. And also, I have a Save the Transmitter. I need everybody's help out there. So
yeah.
I'll be sharing an AM station's transmitter, so stay tuned for that. And I'll be watching chat as much as possible. And if I miss it, hopefully Josh will catch it. So stay tuned, folks. It's a really full show. Thanks for being here.
Okay.
I think we're going to go back to Gordo.
Oh, we lost you, Gordo, when you were playing around with your mic there.
And thanks, Amanda. And let's go ahead and head to outer space. And you're going to be hearing a lot about that tonight. Well, when we look up into the air, we see, of course, the troposphere up about maximum 10 miles. That we can see. But there's a stratosphere. Well, when you really have big storms, it's big time, anywhere from 10 to 30 miles up. The mesosphere, 30 to 50 miles up. And at 50 miles, we bump into the darn D layer. Well, we'll pass through the D layer because we're going to be operating on 10 meters over the Thanksgiving day. And we want to work you on our Ham Nation Ham Radio Crash Course on 10 meters. And that's going to happen on the E layer at 150 miles up. And on the F layer, a week ago, remember the auroras that we had? I mean, you had no idea what they were saying. And when you went, yeah, Roger, I heard you just fine. No, you didn't. That's what an aurora does up at 200 miles. And of course, 248 miles, Randy's taking a look to figure out how can we get a hold of that space station when they turned off their gear. Well, let's head for the ionosphere and see what's going on. Right now in December, we're coming up on a peak of solar cycle activity on the 10-meter band. And that's thanks all to sporadic E, and that occurs up in the ionosphere. Sporadic E are signals on the higher bands that reflect, not refract, but reflect off the ionosphere. And the ionosphere has metallic ions caused by meteors constantly coming on in. And they're moving on with electrons and they're making like a sheet. And that sheet is bouncing signals on the higher frequencies, 15 meters, 10 meters, 6 meters, back down 1,500 miles, even further. And you're going to learn more about that on HamSci in just a few minutes. Anyway, these horizontal sheets are passing from the west to the east. They're not influenced by local weather conditions that the troposphere is, but sometimes even down on the D layer, the atmospherics can give us some wild sky waves that will affect 6 meters and even 10 meters. And of course, when lightning comes into the prospect, then things go just bonkers with the mesosphere, the stratosphere, and finally up here on the E layer at the ionosphere. Well, for technician class operators, you go, oh gosh, we don't get any skywave privileges on high frequency. The heck you don't. You have 28,300 to 28,500. And to hear if the band is open, go to 28,200 to 28,300. And if you hear a lot of CW, then you know that the band is indeed open and you're going to be working all over the country. So these horizontal sheets occurring up on the E layer can even affect signals coming in from satellites. And these horizontal sheets that are drifting from west to east occur big in June and July, but they also occur as a peak, a minor peak in December. And that's a week away. And that's when we're going to be down by the beach, maybe on the beach on Thanksgiving Day, operating on 10 meters. Well, 10 meters for technician many times, and higher class licenses will have even double hops if there's enough E layer going on. Well, what the heck causes the E layer to become ionized to the point of reflecting and refracting radio signals back? Well, that's thanks to wind shears. And a lot of hams say on 6 meters years ago, I can look up there and I can actually see the cloud formations that will occur. Other hams go, no, you negative. You've been too many 807s on that one. Others say it's all due to the solar cycle. Well, folks, sporadic E is not necessarily coordinated with the solar indices, the 11-year solar cycle, sunspots. Nope, the sporadic E is even a little bit more local with possibility of wind shears where ions and free electrons collide and they develop this little sheet. And that sheet may only be 30 or 40 miles up, about 150 miles. Can't see them, but maybe through wind shear, you can sort of see the effects. And what they do is they will cause your VHF and UHF signals, especially up here on 10 meters, to come back down 1,500 miles away. And all you listeners and viewers on the East Coast, I know you get to work all the way across the Atlantic to work in Europe. We wish here on the West Coast we had the same capabilities, but later in the day, you'll probably find that there'll be some good sporadic E clouds that will give us the capabilities on 10 meters to be able to operate on the 10-meter band back to Hawaii and even Asia. Well, the big thing about 10 meters is there's a portion of the band for technicians, 28,300 to 28,500, that is perfectly okay for single sideband. Technicians, you can do FT8 and many of the digital modes down at the very bottom of the 10-meter band in the data portion, CW portion of the band. But I know many of you like good old voice. And wouldn't it be nice if you could do voice up a little higher on frequency where you didn't have to hear a lot of static? Well, you better get my general class book and get to at least the general class level or extra or advanced, because there we have privileges at 29 all the way up to 29.6 and above. And on 29.6, turn your radio over to FM, not single sideband, upper sideband, but FM. Now, again, technicians will meet you on Thanksgiving Day at 28.400 single sideband. But for you generals and above, we're going to give you a taste of FM. Now, FM on the 10-meter band is wonderful because you can set the squelch to quell the background noise. And when signals come through, they come through loud and clear. But about every 20 seconds, they get mushy and almost understandable to zero. And that's because of phase distortion. Because the FM signal is wide where sideband is not, and the FM signal gets refracted back, sometimes out of phase. So here's what a signal on the 10-meter band may sound like that we recorded a few days ago when we had all the auroras in other parts of the country.
Hey, I am located in Sonia, Massachusetts. That's S-C-O-N-E.
Now, you hear that fade, you thought, oh, they're gone. No, they're not gone. They'll come back up about 10 seconds later. Just keep listening. Keep the squelch all the way off now.
I'm using a 3-element 11-meter beam converted.
He's using an 11-meter beam converted over to 10 meters. But, you can get on 10 meters with an 8-foot on each side dipole antenna.
To 10 meters, about 27 feet. Yeah, I'm using a Comtronics FM80.
So the signals will come in clear, and then they'll go far away, and then they'll come back in clear. Now you know you're on 10 meters sporadic E. So I encourage all of you that if you get an opportunity this coming Thanksgiving next week, come up on the air around noontime, your time or my time out here on the West Coast. But generals, advanced and extras, come up on 29.6, but be sure and push the FM button to come over to FM, your simplex FM, although there are repeaters up there, on 29.600, and be excited about hearing what FM sounds like being skywaved via the E layer. And soon you're going to learn more from Hamsai, because those kids out there are finding out stuff that we didn't even know existed. So Amanda, back to you, and everybody. A week from this coming, today is Wednesday, a week from tomorrow around noontime, we sure hope to hear you on either 28.400 or above and 29.600 FM of all things. Amanda?
Very fun. And now you reminded me that it's Thanksgiving and I didn't even wear my turkey hat. So I'm very
that's right.
disappointed in
Yeah,
myself.
yeah.
I didn't get any questions because Gordo is so
I
thorough.
do.
Josh, anything?
Yeah. Am I making it okay? Yeah, I'm good.
Yep.
Yeah. So Gordo, you made a distinction on reflection, not refraction, and maybe it was because of the sporadic E component. What can you break down when it is reflection versus refraction and vice versa, and make sure we're all using the correct terms correctly?
That's good. And many times everybody says the ionosphere is always refracting, which it is most of the time, radio signals. And that's why through refraction, like you would see light broken up into refractive colors. On 80 meters, it's a short skip. On 20 meters, a medium. And on 10 and 15, during good solar activity E-layer skip, it is sometimes refracted double hop, 3,000 miles. Reflections, though, tend to be much more local. So when we have lightning storms and so on that may influence the ionosphere, generally they're almost spot on, where you can work a city about 400 miles away that you could never work ground wave, but only that local city. That is usually reflection, where all of the signal comes back intact. But refraction begins to spread out the different frequencies, the different bands, and that's the excitement of 10 meters.
Excellent. Okay. Well, Gordo, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I guess we'll take a word from. Oh no, that's wrong. See, That's why they don't let me do the transitions, folks. I'm not good at this whole live thing. No, we're passing it to Amanda for our great interview we have. Amanda.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Let me introduce everybody to Gary Mikitin, Alpha Fox 8 Alpha. How are you doing tonight, Gary?
Doing fine, Amanda. Thank you.
Well, thanks for being here, and it was wonderful. I just met Gary, everybody, back in Grand Junction at HamCon, Colorado. He traveled all the way from Ohio to come show everybody what they're all about, and I thought, I think he needs to tell our viewers what HamSci is all about, you guys are spreading like a wildfire. So, Gary, I'm gonna let you take it away, but first, you tell us how you got involved with HamSci, and then I'll let you do your presentation.
Sure. I was fortunate to have retired as an electrical engineer back in 2018. I was looking for interesting things to do. And the following spring, HamSci held its annual workshop here in Cleveland, Ohio at Case Western Reserve University. I signed up, went to the workshop, listened to a lot of the lectures, found it very interesting. The rest, as they say, is history. And now I'm HamSci's Amateur Radio Community Coordinator, kind of serving as a go-between between the science community and the ham radio community.
Fantastic. Well, I looked at your board, and there's a lot of brilliant people on your guys' board. So, but you'll probably explain everything. So I'll just let you share your screen, and you can take it from here.
All right, great. So the entire presentation is about 20 minutes. I've broken up kind of into 3 parts, so we can have some questions in between, so it's not quite such a monologue. But my screen is up. I think you guys should be ready to go. Is that true?
Take it away. You're good.
Great. All right, thanks everyone. So again, good evening or whatever time you may be watching the video. Thanks for having me here on Ham Nation. Again, my name is Gary Mikitin, my call sign AF8A, and I'll be talking about a collective organization called HamSci, the Ham Radio Science Citizen Investigation. We're talking about amateur radio, space physics, and how hams play an important role in everything that HamSci does, and how each of you can join us. I've been a ham radio operator since high school. Like a lot of folks, got on during the CB craze, went from novice to extra while I was still in high school, and I've been active ever since then, primarily on HF and almost exclusively on CW. I got my degree in electrical engineering from Case Western Reserve here in Cleveland, followed by a career in industrial electronics, both design and manufacturing, and so on and so forth. A couple of photos here. You know, my home station's rather modest. I'm also under HOA rules, so I tend to take my contesting operating skills on the road. Here I'm with some buddies at the Ohio and Michigan QSO parties, and at the right, I was in Colorado in 2019 in Fort Collins. It's the WWV 100th anniversary. So today's talk, we'll talk a little bit about the who, what, when, where, and how of HamSci. I'll be emphasizing something called citizen science and all that HamSci offers to the amateur radio community, and how amateur radio plays such an important role in HamSci's work. So let's start at the beginning. HamSci was founded in 2016 by Dr. Nathaniel Frisell, W2NAF. He still leads the organization and provides a tremendous amount of guidance. We are not, a formally defined organization. We're not like a nonprofit or an LLC or any of that sort of stuff. We're simply a group of folks who cooperate and collaborate, members of the scientific community and the amateur radio communities, and also shortwave listeners too, I should mention. You can see our 3 main objectives here. Number 1 is advancing scientific research and understanding through ham radio activities. Number 2 is encouraging new technologies. And number 3 is important as well, providing educational opportunities for the amateur community and the general public. We want HamSci to be a 2-way street. Hams help HamSci, and HamSci, of course, gives something back to the ham radio community. So for the hams and SWLs I'm speaking to tonight, our participation in this organization is best called citizen science, which I can explain a little further. Citizen science is something you can look up in the Oxford Dictionary. The dictionary says it is scientific work, for example, collecting information that is done by ordinary people without special qualifications in order to help the work of scientists. There are literally dozens and dozens of different citizen science projects going on at any one time. And interestingly, NASA is a big supporter of citizen science, providing both organizational support and funding. Now at HamSci, we feel that hams are ideally suited to be citizen scientists because of our training, our technical abilities, and our natural curiosity. And one thing to be clear too, somebody get a little confused about our terminology. There's no citizenship requirement when it comes to citizen science. All volunteers are welcome. So the collaboration between scientists and citizen scientists, I think, is pretty clear if you paw through our website, HamSci.org. It contains a lot of information covering people, projects, some research findings, technical papers, presentations, and a whole lot more. Everything we do is open source, so I encourage you to visit HamSci.org and either just click around or use the search tool to find topics of interest. Now, as an aside, aside from advancing scientific knowledge, one of our goals, which we take very seriously, is the licensing of new hams, and especially college students. So let's briefly look at one university's efforts to provide not only licensing opportunities, but also a first-class station from which students can operate. This is W3USR, the University of Scranton, ARC. And pictured there is the Scranton's Loyola Science Center. And if you squint a bit, you can see some antennas up on the roof. But I think this photo shows them a little better. W3USR was funded primarily through an ARDC grant back in October of 2024. That's when it was dedicated. Now, many of the students who belong to the W3USR club also participate in HamSci's research. Some of them operate during HamSci special events. Others perform data analysis, help with writing software, or work on HamSci specific hardware. It's a very fruitful collaboration between the students and the organization. Now, HamSci is also proud to have furthered the careers of many early stage scientists. In 2023, the grants that HamSci obtains from the National Science Foundation and other such places funded one student's PhD journey. And she, Dr. Christina Collins, KD8OXT, won the Technical Excellence Award at the Dayton Hamvention earlier this year. And we currently have a second PhD student in the pipeline, and we've got others at the bachelor's and master's level doing the sort of science we're going to be talking about today. W3USR holds weekly open houses where both the students and the greater ham radio community are welcome to come operate and interact. I think these sessions are very important because they give the students, many of which are new hams, an opportunity to learn from the old timers. And the old timers can learn from the students who may be using new modes or techniques that they can demonstrate to the OMs like me. So it's, again, a lot of collaboration there. A number of universities are involved with HamSci. A few others have active stations. Here we've shown NJIT and Case Western Reserve, along with W3USR. So my point in showing these last few slides and talking about the college students is, HamSci is all about science, and I'm going to dive into that next. But science and ham radio are really all about people coming together through shared interests, radio-related interests, which should appeal to hams everywhere across a wide range of talents and abilities. So that's my little introduction to HamSci. Do we have any questions so far? Otherwise, I'll carry on.
Oh, yeah. Very impressive.
Great, thanks. So, HamSci and hams working together have accomplished quite a bit, collaborating since HamSci's inception in 2016. As I said earlier, on our website, you'll find a long list of prestigious journals and events where HamSci members, sometimes scientists and sometimes amateurs, have presented or published research observations and findings. And that's really the output of the scientific community. The ideal thing is to have peer-reviewed papers that, it's not just me or some scientist saying something is true or something has happened, but their peers have reviewed their work, criticized it, and gone back and forth, and basically given it validity. So you'll see a lot of that on the HamSci website. So that's a little bit about the professional science. But that said, there are many opportunities to use our ham radio skills for the advancement of science. And there are just as many opportunities for us as hams to expand our knowledge, our tech abilities, and of course, to have fun with our radios. So let's take a look at what Gordon was talking about a little bit earlier, the ionosphere, our primary research focus. So, most hams are familiar with the ionosphere. It's the region of the atmosphere that's roughly between 80 and 300 kilometers above Earth. And those numbers align with Gordo's mile marks earlier today. The ionosphere is particularly interesting to study because it's constantly changing and constantly moving. There's a couple reasons for that. One, of course, is the Earth's rotation leads to daily variations, day and night and that sort of thing. As night becomes day, the ionized layer in the ionosphere, F, separates into F1 and F2 during the day. The D layer appears, and so on. Conversely, as day becomes night, the F layers recombine, and the D layer dissolves, and we've got quite a bit different picture up above. We have our sun, which throws off a lot of X-ray and extreme UV radiation. And that's what we have to thank for ionizing the ionosphere and turning it into a plasma. These ionized layers allow for refraction or the bending of radio signals from the Earth or from our ham radio stations and allow us basically to work DX. The amount of radiation and the resulting ionization vary greatly from hour to hour, day to day, month to month, and solar cycle to solar cycle. So, in summary, it's a highly dynamic system. Of course, there's also effects from solar flares and coronal mass ejections, which can last from hours and from days. Sometimes the effects are very minimal, and sometimes they're pretty severe, as we saw last week when we had some radio blackouts after the big geomagnetic storms. There's also shorter-term phenomena called traveling ionospheric disturbances, which can enhance or degrade the refraction process. Think about wrinkles in the bottom of the ionosphere with it's trying to refract our radio waves. That's what the TIDs kind of look like. And they move on and pass through the ionosphere. And that's something that's very, an area that's very ripe for study. So anyhow, in summary, the ionosphere is a very complex system, but that's what makes it so interesting to study. Now, studies can be taken on with very, very expensive professional grade equipment. Some folks are familiar with ionosondes, which are vertical sounding radars. And ionosondes are very interesting devices, but they cost thousands and thousands of dollars a piece. If you were to try and set up a whole network of ionosondes across the United States to watch the ionosphere as different things happen, you could do so, but it would be a very expensive proposition. So HamSci has taken a different approach. We've worked to develop low-cost hardware and software that's still scientifically useful for studying the atmosphere. There's something called a Grape 1 or a Grape 2. These are instruments that can be built by hams, and in fact, there's instructions on the HamSci website for doing so. What these versions of the Grape do is they receive standard time and frequency stations like WWV. By accurately monitoring the received frequencies, the height of the ionosphere can be tracked. Doing so requires very, very precise and accurate frequency measurements, which is made possible by using GPS disciplined oscillators. You can buy small units from a company called Leo Bodnar over in the UK for less than a few $100s, and you can end up with extremely precise frequency determination. Now, if you're wondering why these systems are called grapes, it's spelled out there in the center. GRADE is actually an acronym for the Great Radio Amateur Propagation Experiment. The other name we've given for these systems are called personal space weather stations, and that term will come up a couple more times in my talk today. But all these systems, as they're receiving WWV and measuring Doppler shifts and doing all this wonderful stuff, they upload their data on a daily basis to HamSci central control system. So there it's not only stored, but it's made available to whoever needs to access it, whether it's the station hosts, HamSci researchers, or the general research community. We're currently working on enhancing the central control system so it may include graphing and analysis tools of the future. So it's fun to create data, but you also want to be able to see your data so you can understand what's going on. And that's where we'll go next. So, a full explanation of the science behind the grapes, this Doppler shift measurements and stuff is probably beyond the scope and the time we have today. But in the simplest terms, I can say that we can sense the bottom side of the ionosphere and its motion by measuring the received frequency of stations to WWV, to millihertz precision. So grape hosts, and I'm one of them, I've got one of these receivers on the table next to me, can easily see ionospheric changes in their station's data, as I'm about to show you. A quick aside, I live in an HOA restricted community. My grape antenna is a receiving loop up in the attic. My 10-meter whisper transmitters on a 10-meter dipole up in the attic. So if this sort of thing interests you and you think you'd like to participate, don't worry if you don't live on a big ranch somewhere and have lots of acres for antennas and that sort of thing. You can do a lot with a very minimal footprint.
Yes.
So let's take a look at some of my grape data. So this plot here, this is a grape 1 plot showing a relatively quiet day in the ionosphere. This plot covers 24 hours back on the 15th of October in 2023. The y-axis, the vertical axis on the left, is the axis for the black line, and that is frequency shift, measurement of the Doppler effect. Top to bottom on the left is plus or minus 1 hertz. So think about this. This station was receiving WWV on 10 megahertz, which is 10 million hertz. But yet this receiver was able to detect changes much, much smaller than 1 hertz in the apparent received frequency. So that tells you how accurate and precise this system really is. But this is a fairly typical grape plot. The black line, you see it has some wiggles there, but there's nothing really too exciting going on, except maybe a little bit of a wobble between the two blue vertical lines there between 15 and 1800 UTC or so. But let's see, let's take a look at another good day. Now this is an interesting day because this plot was taken on the date of the annular solar eclipse, which passed across the United States on October 14th of 2023. If you remember, that annular eclipse started in the Pacific Northwest, arced across the central United States, and left the continental US somewhere in the Houston area out into the Gulf. But the eclipse's effect is very clearly visible between those two blue lines, between about 1500 and 1800 UTC. And what you first see is the dip there. That dip occurred as the Doppler shift went negative, about a minus a half of a hertz. That means the ionosphere was rising because the moon blocked the sun's radiation, darkening the top side of the ionosphere. So that was like a nighttime condition. An hour or two later, you'll see this little peak. That peak there around 1800 UTC was the exact opposite occurring. The moon got out of the way. The sun was able again to shine and excite the ionosphere, so we went back to sort of daytime conditions. The ionosphere was falling, the F layer was separating into F1 and F2.
Wow.
So yeah, I think this is a pretty good example of a HamSci designed instrument being operated by a ham, but yet detecting scientifically relevant information about the ionosphere. Now, Gorder was talking about aurora before and storms and that sort of thing. This is a great plot during a very intense geomagnetic storm, August 12th of 2024. And you can see the wild swings in the black line, especially in the left-hand side. Yes, the ionosphere was rocking and rolling. There were probably large swings up and down, and obviously very frequent ones too. The red line is apparent, received signal strength, and you can see about the middle of the chart over to the right, it kind of flatlined, and I'm sure the band was dead. I wasn't receiving anything on 10 megahertz, and that's probably the minimum. That was probably my noise floor there. So again, we saw some subtle things from the eclipse, and we see some very clear things from the big storms.
Wow.
Yep. So it's a lot of fun to be able to open up your own station like this and see these plots the next day, and then go back to spaceweather.com or solarham.com and try to equate what you see in your plots versus what the professionals reporting on KP, solar flux, and so on and so forth. So I'll take a pause if we have any questions here.
Grapes. Is Hamsai encouraging other hams to maybe build their own stations and deploy grapes from their locations as well?
Good question. That's part 3 of my talk, Amanda. So you're right on.
So then
I need another project.
Yeah, right. We all need more projects. Yes,
well,
that's for sure.
I'm getting the vibe from Randy already that he's all in on this. So, okay, and going back to one of your slides, you mentioned an upcoming event called MSQP. What is that?
The Meteor Scatter QSO party. That'll also be in the 3rd part. Yep.
Okay, we're getting it all covered here. So then the follow-up question to the grapes is, how does Hamsai receive all of that information from everyone? And I'm guessing you're going to fill us in on all of that as well.
Yeah, that's, I don't have any screenshots of that, but each one of these instruments is connected to the web, whether it's, through Wi-Fi in your shack, or I've got an hardwired Ethernet connection here. But once a day at 3 minutes after 8 p.m. local time, my grape uploads a CSV file, data file, and this image to a HamSci central control system. Not only me, but the other 100 or so people that are running these grape type systems are doing the exact same thing throughout the day. So as a researcher, if you want to look back and say what happened on last week's storm, you can pick out station by station. If you want to look at Ohio, do you want to look at Michigan, do you want to look at Colorado, whatever, and pull the data back out and see this own sort of thing. And the research is then do whatever they do with this stuff to try and make sense of it.
Are there stations around the world?
Most of the stations in the US, just because we're funded primarily by the National Science Foundation.
Okay.
But there are some others, definitely in Europe and other places.
Very cool. Anything I missed, you guys?
No, I think
Nope.
Part 3.
Yeah.
Part 3. Here we go.
Okay, here we go. So, so the observations and finding by the HamSci researchers, it's nice for me to be able to look at this stuff, but these have been presented to or published in some pretty prestigious journals, such as the American Geophysical Union, Frontiers, Hardware X, the IEEE. You've seen articles about us in ARL and RSGB publications, because we do have a fairly good-sized following in the United Kingdom, which is always appreciated. These publications only occur after the collection and analysis, literally, of gigabytes of data, the majority of which is generated by hams. As I said earlier, some of these data generating hams are, running HamSci instruments at their stations, and others are participating in HamSci operating events, which covers 2 of the questions that Amanda gave me. So anyhow, let's start with the grapes and the personal space weather station network. So, one of these systems would be fine, but having 50 of them out there collecting data across a wide geographic area, and I'll show you a map in a minute, is ideal. So when you get a lot of stations like this all collecting data and sending it in, you've basically got a network. And the technical term for such a network is a distributed array of small instruments, DAISY. The folks at NASA and the federal government love their acronyms, so we love them too. So we've got this a current existing network of stations. We definitely want to expand it. And the National Science Foundation announced another grant to deploy 30 more of these personal space weather stations over the next year or 2. So we're in the process of defining and developing the key instruments, the key elements to this expanded personal space weather station. On the left-hand side of this picture, you see what we call a Whisper Daemon SDR. It's a software-defined receiver that can pull down those Doppler plots that I showed you earlier. It also receives Whisper on pretty much the whole HF spectrum, and it does some other decoding as well. So that's we've got about a dozen of those out and running, kind of in a test bed. We're thinking about using these DX Engineering active antennas. It's a real interesting antenna. It's a receive-only antenna. A lot of people who run skimmers and are reporting the reverse beacon network might have them, but it's only about 7 or 8 feet tall, has a nice little preamp on it. but it avoids having to need acres and acres of antennas for this sort of stuff. Two other pieces that I haven't talked about yet. The third picture there is a ground magnetometer. It looks like a PC pipe or PVC pipe stuck into the ground, and that's pretty much what it is. But at the bottom of that pipe is a sensor. It can sense the Earth's magnetic field to a very, very small resolution, about 10 nanoteslas. And as I think we all know too, when the ionosphere and things are rocking and rolling over our heads, the Earth's geomagnetic field is also undergoing some sort of storming conditions. So we want to be able to tie the data from our HF software-defined receiver to what's going on with the Earth's magnetic field through this ground magnetometer. And there's also a lot of interest in studying reception at VLF, very, very low frequencies between like 8 and 30 kilohertz. So we're working on designing an active VLF antenna and processing system. So this is the kind of the new going forward personal space weather station with all three of these instruments. The good thing is, as I said, the National Science Foundation has given us monies to purchase the components, assemble some of these things, and ship them out to station hosts. So the idea is that the station host may, obviously he's got to give us a place to put it. They've got to power it. They've got an internet connection and so on and so forth. But the actual equipment itself would not be a cost burden to the host. So on our HamSci website, if you go to the home page, there's a section on there about the personal space weather station. As you click through, there's actually an interest form. If you're interested in hosting one of these systems, and perhaps having one sent to you by HamSci, at least get on our mailing list so we can talk a little bit further in the future. What we're really trying to do are find sites that give us the best opportunity to hear the most signals. Places that are fairly RF quiet, semi-rural sites and that sort of thing. That's kind of what we're after. So here's a map that there are some current stations shown on here and some of the smaller dots, but the red stars are the places we want to expand and add stations. The reason we want such a nice geographic dispersion is because some of these phenomena, and sporadic E is one of them, can actually move across the continent. So if we just had receivers, say, only on the West Coast or only on the East Coast, we might miss some of the interesting things that are going on. By spreading these things out every 500 or 600 or 700 or so miles, whatever spacing we're able to get, we should be able to follow some of these phenomena as they cross the continent. And that's just an interesting area for research. So, what makes our personal space weather station unique, and why is it worth all this effort? And I think this slide summarizes it pretty nicely. We're going to have the only widespread coordinated HF, VLF, and ground magnetometer measurement instruments distributed primarily across the US. It's known as the mid-latitude region. We're not at the poles, we're not at the equator, we're kind of in between. But once deployed, this enhanced network will enable us to investigate both local and continental space effects, including those caused by traveling ionospheric geomagnetic storms. So, having said all that scientific stuff, it's kind of a mouthful. But the other thing that's kind of interesting is to sit back and, let's think about solar cycles. We've now got documentation going back to solar cycle number 1 in 1755. So here we are in 2025 talking about continuing a 270-year tradition of science-based solar observation. It's just we're doing it with SDRs and other things, and back then they were just looking through a spyglass. That's about all they had. So, so part of our HamSci is deploying these stations, but the other part are our operating events, because these operating events create huge amounts of data through the WHISPER network, the Weak Signal Propagation Reporting Network, through other events, so as our solar eclipse QSO parties. There's a lot of different ways to generate data. I mean, every QSO, if it's recorded, whether it's in PSK reporter or some such thing, is a data point, because we know who was transmitting, who was receiving, where they were located, on what band and at what time. So when you put a lot of that data together, you can start to get an interesting picture of what's going on over our heads. The SEQPs were held most recently in 23 and 24 during the big eclipses. We had about 900 entrants for those events. And we looked at the total picture of the data that came in for that time period. There were about 1.9 million data points that the scientists are trying to work through now. So that's keeping them busy and I suppose out of trouble. Now going forward, we're also interested in doing something new. And here we want to talk about the meteor scatter QSO party. You know, meteor scatters have been done for years primarily on 6 meters, but also 2. But recently the FCC changed the rules and bandwidth limitations so that you can now do this wonderful meteor scatter digital mode called on the MSK 144 on 10 meters. It's now legal. It never used to be. So what we're trying to do is get folks to operate both 6 and 10 meter MSK 144 during these, well, the past meteor shower back in August and the upcoming one, the 12th and 13th of December, the Geminid shower. So hams, through reception reports and two-way QSOs, can be prolific data generators during these 2 events. So hopefully we'll learn a little bit more about 6 and 10 meter propagation and maybe get some more information and new insights into the behavior of meteors. Now, one other thing too, if this meteor scatter thing interests you, but you say, well, you know, it sounds pretty exotic, I don't think I can do that. Actually, it's not that exotic. I learned that meteor scatter can be done with WSJT software, which is the same thing you use to run FT8, and you need a 6 or 10 meter dipole. So it's really not hard to get involved. And if that sort of thing interests you, take a look at hamsci.org/MSQP, and we've got a lot more details on how to participate.
And Gary, we recorded some of that. Meteor scatter. Wow.
There you go. So yeah, the MSK 144 mode is interesting because, you know, we're talking about when we were doing this in August. Unfortunately, the good thing and the bad thing was while we were recording pings off the meteors, sporadic E was also very active. So we've got a lot of, I wouldn't say conflicting report, but overlapping reports. And one of the challenges for some of the students at the University of Scranton right now is to determine which of these data points are actually meteor scatter versus some other propagation mode, which we aren't at this time as interested in studying. So discerning with those 2 things is hopefully they're up to the challenge.
And ham radio operators are all the way down here to 10 hertz. And this is Spirit. Amazing, huh? You can tell us more about that, I'm sure.
Yeah, those are called natural radio emissions, and that's definitely out of my area of expertise. But once we get a couple of these VLF stations up and running, then I think we'll be able to cover a little bit more adequately. But that's the Earth, and that's Mother Nature creating those signals. Those aren't hams tapping out a key. So I've covered a lot in just under 30 slides. I hope I've kind of piqued the curiosity, and if so, I invite you to join us. There's a lot of different ways to connect. Some are as simple as reading the mail, you know, on some of our bulletin boards and stuff, and others invite active participation. We've got an annual workshop, which I think this year will be on the East Coast in mid-March. We'll be announcing the site soon. But the easiest thing to do is to join our Google group. You get to our homepage, hit the blue button, and follow the instructions. We also have a series of Zoom telecons during the week, some of which are more technically oriented, having to do with designing and perfecting the hardware and software. Some others are talking mainly about the personal space weather stations and our findings there. And on Thursday afternoons, it's kind of a give back thing where we typically have what we call the ham science talks, where we get experts in different fields to come talk to us as hams and explain to us some of the things that we're seeing and learning about. So Zoom's a great way to get involved with HamSci. The last question, someone might ask, say, what's in it for hams? What are the long-term benefits of participation? We all want to understand propagation better. We want improved models of the ionosphere, leading to more accurate propagation forecasts. And it's also very satisfying contributing to science. So that's about it. Amanda and team, thank you very much. and I'll stick around for questions tonight.
What a great presentation.
Oh, amazing.
Cool stuff.
Bravo.
I'm just going to bring up the fact that you guys tried to go to almost every convention, hamvention, so that you're out there and interesting other hams as well. So you'll probably be at Hamcation, right?
Yes, there's been talk about coming down to Orlando. Yes, so we'll hope to be there.
Very good. Josh, any questions?
Yeah, so we've got a number of like data points I think we've done now, because I participated in 6 meters when we did a recent one. I don't have a grape yet, but tempt me with another project. I think Randy and I are both itching to do that. But like you talked about the radio propagation and all that stuff. Has it been used for anything like so far, or like do we lack sample size? Do we need more data? Like what do you think is the big thing we're waiting on here?
That's a good question. Since I'm really not on the scientific analysis side of things, I'm familiar with some of the findings that they've observed. For instance, as an eclipse is coming by, we know the bands were changing. During the day, 15 and 20 meters closed when the eclipse went by, and 40 and 80 opened up. Those changes occurred very rapidly on the front side of the eclipse, but the recovery time, getting back to normal on the backside, was quite different. So there's what we call an asymmetry there. And the scientists are kind of stumped as to why that is. So I think they just need to think about it harder. But I think the other thing is by expanding this network, we need some different instruments to look at. Maybe we're just focused on shortwave for now, but by looking at the geomagnetics or the VLF stuff, more things might become apparent. I don't know. Science, again, is a little out of my wheelhouse.
I have kind of a question. Well, so A, you proved that the Earth is round. So thank you very much for that, Gary, in case there was any doubters out there. And B, do industries like Department of Defense or anything ask you for any of this data so that they can further learn?
I
is that
don't know.
classified?
I don't know if they wouldn't come to me in the ham radio community for that probably. But I do know, for instance, like this meteor scatter stuff, the Canadians have done a lot of work on that because they have such issues up in the far north communicating because of aurora. They actually have purposely built radars and things to try to better understand the meteor scatter stuff. So I don't know where they're at with that, but whether we're going to tie into what they've already learned or we're going to learn more than them, it's hard to know.
Oh, fun times. Anything else, Josh?
Yeah, let's go back to that flat Earth thing for a second, because you'd be surprised. I get a number of comments from people on my channel about the Earth being flat. Do you actually have evidence for that? That like I could just point people to, because I'm tired of having to explain to people that the Earth is actually round. I'm not kidding either. I'm not joking.
It goes back to the mid '70s in the Apollo program, and there was this thing called the pale blue dot. Remember that picture?
They don't believe it though. They think it's NASA, it's conspiracy. They didn't really do that. That's not true. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding, people. I'm not kidding.
That's sad.
Oh, so okay, we know a couple of people at least, it sounds like.
It's a good thing they're on your channel and not mine.
Yeah, it is.
I'm sorry I brought that up. No, that's hilarious. Okay. Well, Gary, thank you so much for being here, and we'd love to have you back on again. Maybe go over some data after some of these other events that you all do. And everybody, go to HamSci website and check them out. I think that's the best thing for everyone to do.
Oh, yep, I've got it right here. So go check out the website.
I was pulling it up during the presentation and it was slow. So I don't know if that's the Ham Nation effect, but yeah, so go and check it out for sure. Very cool stuff.
Thank you, Gary.
A few things I want to click on. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gary. Appreciate you. Josh, are we going to go to Icom?
I think so. Yep.
Okay.
Pumpkins plaid and plenty of QSOs. Fall is here, and Icom rigs are your go-to gear. Whether you're chasing DX from the cozy comfort of your shack or taking your rig outdoors under crisp autumn skies, Icom keeps you connected through every season. Remote ready, contest capable, and built for serious signal, step into the future of amateur radio with Icom's powerhouse trio. The IC7760 HF digital transceiver, The ICPW2 1 kilowatt HF 50 megahertz linear amplifier, and the all-new RC7760 remote controller. Designed to work in perfect harmony, this system offers full remote operation, high output power, and seamless integration across the bands. The RC7760 remote controller serves as an extra control head, and up to 5 can be registered to the RF deck, though only one can be active at a time. For wireless connectivity, simply connect a commercially available Wi-Fi access point via the LAN port. Whether you're working from the shack, the field, or a remote site, you'll experience crystal clear audio, digital precision, and amplifier-grade power, all from a single unified interface. It's the ideal setup for contesters, MCOM operators, and high-demand users who expect more from their gear. The IC7300 combines intuitive touchscreen control, real-time spectrum display, and superior signal purity into one compact rig. Built for satellite, EME, and weak signal enthusiasts, the IC9700 combines all-mode operation on VHF, UHF, and 1.2 GHz. The IC705 go-to rig for outdoor hams who love POTA and SOTA activations. A large color touchscreen with real-time spectrum scope and waterfall display for intuitive function and setting operation. The IC705 provides big radio features and performance in the palm of your hand. Enjoy HF to 50, 144, and 440 MHz with D-Star, SSB, CW, RTTY, AM, and FM modes. For more information about all of Icom's great amateur radios, visit icomamerica.com/amateur today.
A huge thank you to Icom for sponsoring Ham Nation. Thank you so much for the support. And as a just show of how cool Icom is, they give away swag packs every time we go live, and the link is in the video description. It's the first website that's linked. If you click on it, it pulls up this site. There's an Enter Now button. And when you click on it, you can enter to win some swag packs. And those swag packs will be, like a shirt, tablets, pens, that kind of stuff. It's random. But if you win one of those things, then your name goes into the pile of names that we've collected throughout the year to win a radio. At the end of every month, Icom gives away a radio to the viewers of Ham Nation. And this episode, we're giving away a radio. First, the swag pack winners. We have 3. Morgan H, KQ4 WLR, Stephen M, W1 GMM, and Dean M, WB2 CMN. And the winner of the radio this month is Jacob R, KE2 EKU. Congratulations on your new radio. We're coming up. We're at the top dollar radios here, kids. So make sure you click that Enter Now button. You could win a swag pack. That's cool. But then you go into the giveaway chance every month. If you win one in like January, a swag pack, you're potentially in every one of those giveaways throughout the rest of the year. You could win a radio every month. That's amazing. So thank you again, Icom. We very much appreciate the support. Donnie boy, how you doing so far?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm amazed. Gary's just the best guest I think we've had in a long time. Just really good stuff, Gary. We certainly appreciate you. And someone who's very familiar with HamSci is Dr. Tabitha Scove. And she, of course, is our space weather woman and our space weather reporter here for Ham Nation and also for the Amateur Radio Newsline. She's our science editor for that. So we've got a report from her right after we get to the news of the week from Amateur Radio Newsline right now. From Amateur Radio Newsline report number 2507, this is Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, November 19th, 2025. We begin this week with a report of disaster preparedness that rallied quickly as a super typhoon in the South China Sea was bearing down on the Philippines on the 8th of November. Newsline anchor Neil Rapp, WB9 VPG, has details.
Emergency amateur frequencies in the region were cleared for the Philippine Amateur Radio Association and others to use for traffic. The association's operators were among those engaged by the Philippine National Telecommunications Commission to help government responders, especially in those regions where communication connections had been destroyed by the powerful storm known internationally as Feng Wong. The death toll kept rising and more than 1 million people were displaced in the archipelago archipelago nation as floods and landslides took over much of the landscape in the northern provinces. Sustained winds were reported at up to 185 kilometers per hour or 115 miles per hour, with gusts of as much as 230 kilometers per hour or 143 miles per hour. Amateur radio has traditionally been a part of disaster response and the recovery process.
Although many remember this annual competition as the Intrepid DX Group's Youth Dream Rig Essay Contest, there have been some changes, some very big changes, as the 6th annual challenge begins.
For the past 5 years, licensed hams 25 and younger were challenged to write an essay on a topic relevant to ham radio's place in the world. It's part of the Intrepid DX Group's mission to encourage the growth of amateur radio in all nations around the world, especially in areas that are still developing. The contest is being called Amateur Radio for the Greater Good. In a departure from previous contests, this one asks the young hams to submit proposals to establish a public access radio station somewhere in the U.S. The station can be intended for any public building, a school, a house of worship, a fire station, a hospital, or a community center. The winner will receive a complete HF, VHF, UHF station, including coax and antennas, to make their proposal a reality, where it can be used for club use, mentoring, training, and emergency communication. The winner will also receive their own HF radio for personal use. The deadline for submission of proposals is the 10th of December, with the awardee's name announced on the 15th. This is Ralph Squillace, KK6ITB.
Staying on the youth theme, a pair of AMSAT courses to teach students about satellites have gained support from Amateur Radio Digital Communications.
In 2022, AMSAT rolled out its community-based Youth Initiative program, which provides age-appropriate lessons about satellites for youngsters in 2 age groups, grades 5 to 7 and grades 8 till 12. 3 years later, as the initiative gathers even more momentum, Amateur Radio Digital Communication has announced that it is providing the initiative with 2 grants designed to enhance both the student group's learning experiences. One grant will allow production of a coloring book for the younger students who are of elementary school age. The pages will depict satellites being used to aid in pollution control, wildfire fighting, broadcasting, and navigation. The other grant will help secure more software licenses for online courses for the older students who are of high school age. Central to the initiative are its 2 websites, KidSat and BuzzSat, which contain age-appropriate activities for the younger and older students, respectively. The students also have access to a network of online software-defined radios they can use as ground stations for receiving images and telemetry from satellites making passes overhead. This is Jack Parker, W8ISH.
And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news since 1976 at arnewsline.org. With Neil Rapp, WB9VPG, Ralph Squillace, KK6ITB, Jack Parker, W8ISH, Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team across the globe, I'm Don Wilbanks, AE5DW. 7-3. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation. Now here's the solar update from Dr. Tamitha Skov, WX6SWW.
Space weather this week is calming down quite a bit compared to last week. As we take a look at our Earth-facing disk, you can see the remnants of region 4274 disappearing behind the west limb right there. That region is continuing to fire stuff on the sun's far side, so we're going to be watching it very carefully. Meanwhile, we're dealing with a little bit of a coronal hole. We're kind of a waning coronal hole, the fast wind effects from that. And then also we have another coronal hole that's going to be rotating into the Earth strike zone here over the next couple days. That could give us a little bit of something, but not expecting a lot, definitely not compared to what we had last week. Now, I'm switching the colors of the sun because what I want to show you is you can see the kind of the waning activity levels. You can see the very big glow here. That's from all those big active regions that were rotating through the Earth strike zone and causing so much havoc last week. Those are going away, yes, but look at the east limb. You see kind of a similar kind of glow, don't you? Well, that's because we've got about 3 other active regions that have just been kind of born. They're just now emerging from the solar surface, and they're actually causing quite a ruckus already. One of these up top here has already given us a near M-class flare and did fire off a big solar storm. So expect these regions to be rotating into Earth view here over the next maybe 3 to 4 days. All of the quiet we're getting on the radio bands right now, because all that noise is definitely calmed down. Enjoy the quiet, because the solar flux as well as the risk for radio blackouts is going to rise here over the next few days, and it's going to continue to be worse possibly in through the latter part of next week. So enjoy this, respite that we get, because it's not going to last for very long. And now, as we switch to our solar storm conditions and aurora possibilities over the coming week, we are anticipating that active conditions from that fast solar wind that's going to be hitting Earth here in the next couple days. Aurora photographers at high latitudes, you could reach active, possibly storm levels. So, you might get a little bit of aurora, but it's not going to be anything like those big storms we had last week. And then things will calm down here over the next, over the latter part of the weekend and into the next week, and we're probably going to have to wait for those new regions to give us some more solar storming. Now at mid latitudes, well, we may be expecting active conditions, but only up to about a 15% chance of a minor storm. So aurora photographers, if you're at mid latitudes, likely want to sit this one out unless you're very good at chasing substorms. And now as we switch to our solar flare and dayside radio blackout outlook over the coming week, we are sitting with low 120s into the probably climbing slowly into the 130s for solar flux. This means good propagation on the day side for radio operators, only sitting with about a 15% chance of R1 to R2 level radio blackouts at M-class flares over the next few days. But that, again, that's going to rise as these new regions rotate into Earth view. So expect to have a bit of minor noise on the bands right now, but that noise is going to increase. Luckily, not going to get to that R3 level radio blackout though this week, so that's a good thing. And now for our radiation, storm, and polar aviation outlook over the coming week, everything is in the green. We have finally quieted down from that massive, almost historic radiation storm that we had just this past week. We got a huge ground level event from that. No doubt it made the VHF bands quite noisy, as well as HF, especially if you were at high latitudes. And who knows, it may have given you a little bit of sporadic E. So if those of you who are not expecting sporadic E this time of year got a little bit, well, it may be because of that incredibly powerful radiation storm that we had, really high energies from that storm. But that has finally calmed back down. We are sitting well in the green, and this is likely going to continue over the rest of this week. So if you're a frequent flyer, and this does include aircrew and your high-risk passengers, you're all in the clear.
All right, another great report from Dr. T. You can see on the screen there her handle on Twitter at @TamithaScove. It's the same on YouTube. And of course, she has spaceweatherwoman.com. And if you don't follow her on X, I don't want you in the house, quite frankly. So,
you're missing so much if you're not following
you
Dr.
really
T.
are, because she's constant. I don't know.
Slackers.
I don't know if she sleeps sometimes, especially like last week. She probably pulled an all week.
I don't think she did. She reposted so many other people's photos and said she was a busy gal.
Yeah, and I want to show you guys a picture real quick if I can pull it up real fast. Let me see here.
I love the fact that even though the sun has gone to bed because it's night, she stays up all night just
she does
on solar reports and talking on
right.
X. And the aurora pictures I saw, amazing.
Yeah,
just absolutely amazing that everybody was posting. Just one of my favorite things. It sucks that we can't do radio, but the actual auroras were amazing.
Well, speaking of aurora, I live 50 miles from the Gulf of Mexico as a crow flies.
Mm-hmm.
This was one of my friends just up the road.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
That's
so cool.
And I actually saw, I got it very, very faint.
Look at, wow. Is that, wait, hold on. Let me give Randy.
I love the clouds
look at that.
in there.
Where's Randy? There it is. Look at that with the clouds. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
it looks like
gorgeous.
Stranger Things. It looks like you got a.
It does a little bit. Adds a little bit more red in there. It totally the Stranger Things cover photo. I've got the money shot though that I'm going to show here in a little bit.
Well, I'd like to show mine. So there's a map here that shows aurora propagation. So here's where I live. It's circled. The total blackout of aurora. That's where I am, and it was even down into Texas, and I can't get any of it. So that was us. That was Gordo and I.
I didn't see any on the first night, but the second night I went outside with my iPhone, And just on it, you can kind of barely see a little bit of a hint.
There's a hint. There's a
of
hint.
glow.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's a
Oh
hint,
yeah,
a
yeah.
tinge.
Just
Oh yeah,
barely.
right.
Just
Well,
Right.
and that was
so
whiff.
many
my
people
house,
like
so.
Whiff.
waited because the second night was supposed to be more spectacular, and then it went whoop.
Yeah,
it's
it
gone.
was, yeah,
nothing.
that's what I was hoping.
The sun's
but
like, no
anyway.
aurora for you.
Yeah. I mean, you know, down here on the Gulf of Mexico to see anything like that is
Right.
just, it's
Oh, it's crazy.
Special.
Yeah, it's crazy.
crazy.
Amazing.
Randy, we're sending it to you. What you been up to,
Yeah,
bud?
buddy.
Oh, just all sorts of stuff here. So I talk about 3 things here, maybe a few more as we finish up here. Let me get my screen here going to you all. And here we go. And so talk about the ISS and some meteors a little bit. The Tucson Radio Society Club is having a cactus special event. So those things are always fun. And I have an update on Gordo's flaming pickle demonstration he does.
no.
Oh,
I've-
Gotta pay
I have
attention.
seen
I'm
that.
so
I have
glad you're
seen
able to
that
spend
live.
the
It
whole
is
night
so
here.
cool.
Yeah. So SSTV Series 30 was scrubbed. It started on the 12th of November. It lasted for about 2 hours. That's like 1 1/3 of an orbit. And some people got pictures from there and they got their certificates. But then I don't know if the transmitter died or what, but then it would only transmit for like 4 seconds at a time. So the plug was pulled. So I didn't get anything here. The passes for the US are all kind of later in the afternoon and at night. So I left 2 radios on, tracking antennas, and static, nothing. So
You got skunked. We all
got
got
skunked. Maybe January. We had meters last night,
Grandkids, yeah.
and I have
Nice.
an all-sky camera I built. This is kind of a project similar to the Space Weather Station, but it's a camera with a Raspberry Pi. So I caught this one burn here, and that's about the best one I caught. I didn't hear anything, but I was able to catch that. So this is the camera I built. A couple years ago, we were headed up to Alaska for vacation and hopefully to see the aurora up there, which I've seen better aurora here in Oregon. So here's the camera here. It's one of the cameras they use for telescopes. It's a lower price one. And here's a Raspberry Pi in here. And here's a little 12 volt to USB-C power adapter thing to power the camera and stuff. So I just set it on a tripod. It runs all night. And you can see it took a 15-second exposure. And it takes a picture about once a minute. So I'm really kind of missing a quarter of the sky. I wish it was I have to look at the software. Maybe there's been some updates. I haven't updated it for probably 2 years. You know, it's working, so I just leave it. I did check on PSK Reporter, and this is what the meteor shower activity looked like last night. So again, the East Coast is just rocking and rolling, and closest one to me was probably this guy here in Grants Pass or Medford, over that area here. So, and you know, Gary was talking about this, so yeah, we got another chance here to try this here in a couple of weeks. So get your, you know, if you got an HF radio with 6 meters, even if you don't have a 6-meter antenna, put it in the MSK 144 mode, 50.260, and see what happens. Just let it run all night. So there's a
And
plug
if you're
for
like
you,
me
Gary.
and you've got a 80-meter off-center fed dipole, that's a pretty doggone good little 6-meter antenna.
See what you can hear.
Oh yeah, that'll do well.
Yeah. Okay, Radio Society of Tucson. My brother-in-law was telling me about this, and it looks like a neat special event. It's focusing on cactus in the state of Arizona. It'll be on starting Friday, and it runs for an entire week. And here's again the times. I think they got an error on their website here. It's not in September. They have 6 stations and then two stations for the bonus stations. They have software so the people in that state can take and say, I want to operate this mode at this time. And we can go and look at the schedule and kind of figure out who's working where and who's on now and that type of thing to help you. You want to get a clean sweep. So these are the special cards that they have made up.
Oh, cool.
Ooh,
So
pretty.
here's
Very
your
nice.
incentive to try and work them all and, try and get all these cards. And of course, they have a certificate if you participate and get a clean sweep and all that good stuff. So prickly signals. Now, this is the way I chase these things. This is what I use for the Route 66 and the 13 colonies. And I'm primary AF8AGary operator. So I use JT Alert. And what this does, it watches everything that WSJTX is receiving and displays it. And I can set in all sorts of alerts here. So this is how I worked at DX Marathon, how I'm looking for DXCC to work all states, work all providences. And here I've put in wanted call signs, and here's the 6 call signs for the event. You can set a sound here, so when it hears the station, it'll beep at you or talk to you or make your own WAV file and stick in there. And so you can be alerted. So what's nice about this is what your station is hearing at that moment in time. When it goes beep, you run, you get on.
You run.
The other thing I use is, this is still JET Alert. So this is all the stations that WSJTX has received. And here I'm alerting on POTUS stations. So at the bottom of the screen here, I've put it off to the side. These are the 2 POTUS that I heard. And if I double click on that, it puts their call sign into WSJTX and you're ready to go hunt them down. So again, this is what your radio is hearing at that moment in time. Ham Alert is a alerting app that I use. This is looking at the web page here. You can go on there and sign up. It's free, just name and username and passwords. But here you can enter in calls that you want to be alerted on, and this will alert on any time it's spotted. So even if my radio's on a different band, if it's alerted on PSK Reporter or somebody spots it in the DX cluster, this will alert you. And this is what it looks like on the phone app. I've been looking for this guy here, and so it shows up on the phone. But what's really neat is the alerts show up on your watch.
That's right.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So you'd be watching TV, you hit pause on the DVR and go in and well,
sorry, honey, we got to pause the stories. There's hot DX
Right.
on the radio. I got to
That's
go.
right. That's right.
That doesn't work. That doesn't work for
that
me.
don't work.
No, I don't know.
I
So
love the
anyway,
icon with the ham bone.
the
there.
ham. Yeah, there you go.
That's funny.
Whatever
Yeah, that's
happened to tuning, doing
Tuning and
No.
listening?
Come
No,
on.
no.
Come on now.
Anyway, okay, on to the pickle. I think many of us have seen Gordo at the various conventions. He gets some brave soul up on the stage and he plugs this thing into the wall and electrodes go in each end of the pickle. And, there's 110 volts AC exposed on that piece. I'm surprised you haven't killed somebody or.
I am too, believe me.
Oh my gosh.
Well, how many years, Gordo, have you been doing this?
About 15 years. And our best contact on the pickle was
Zero 1, Juliet Yankee 1, Juliet Yankee number 1, Whiskey Bravo 6, November
yeah, King even came back. No,
Yeah.
that's not real. Anyway,
Well,
no,
You've been doing it longer than that, Gordo, because when you came down to New Orleans, Tyler was less than a year old, and he'll be 26 in January. So you've been doing it at least 25, 26 years.
with the same pickle.
Oh,
Oh no, I'm sure you've upgraded the pickle.
it's a
by
little
now.
dried up, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
little
more like a
desiccated.
pickle chip by now.
And Gary thought it was spherics that he was hearing.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So I listened to the Hackaday podcast, and I was driving to the PO box or something the other day, and they're talking about abusing component challenge here.
Oh, I love
And
that.
this guy has this doggone LED tester. And I heard about this, and I thought, Gordo, you need to up your game.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Oh,
So
that's
this is a hot
cool.
dog. You got
That's
110
funny.
volts AC across there. So how many volts per tenth of an inch, the spacing on the LEDs, can you have? Now you may have to put them in linearly across the hot dog. You see some of those
Yep.
are
I
not lit
love
there.
I love it.
That doesn't look kosher to me.
And maybe you want to jazz it up a little bit. You can put some mustard on there and have a, what wavelength is that? That's like
That's
about 4 or
funny.
5 cycles there across 6 inches. So
Notice the
It's-
red is not
I
illuminated
know. I was
much.
just gonna say it's
Yep.
just like my Christmas LEDs when it has low batteries for this little display that I put outside. The red ones never pop up when it has low batteries. So
Or
crazy.
when I do the Christmas lights, the red is the worst. Always. They never
Really?
light up much. Yep.
Mo power.
okay. So that's kind of what's been going
I
on
love
there.
it, Randy. We're gonna
That's
adopt
funny.
that.
So otherwise, I'm starting to get ready for Quartz Fest. I just brought it up here on a calendar thing. I've got 87,840 minutes to get ready for the opening of Quartz Fest, which is 61 days away. But I got all sorts of stuff. The plan is to bring more stuff this year than I ever have. So I'm not gonna. You have to wait and see. And the other thing I've been gonna do here, I've play around with
There we go.
Meshtastic, and really isn't any activity around here, but I'm going to put up a repeater and see if we can scare up maybe some of the club guys to spend $30 and get a board or something and start playing around.
Nice.
And I live up on a hill, and I'm going to put this on my tower. This will face south, and little Yagi will face north. And town's like 3 to 5 miles away, and I should be able to cover down into Gold Beach, Oregon. So,
Wow.
Cool.
yeah.
Well,
that's
let me know
what's-
what Yagi you decide on, because that's a challenge. I would love to know what Yagi direction you go, because I might consider one of those too.
Yeah, I'll have to find the link. It was on Walmart is where I found it. I've
Oh.
been finding stuff there sometimes more available than it is
Interesting.
on Amazon. So,
Interesting.
but I think it's still coming from China because I still
Oh
don't
yeah,
have
definitely.
it.
definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have some ham friends coming into town. I hope it gets here before Turkey Day. So,
Yeah.
Nice.
Well,
Yay.
I got a quick announcement. Wow, we got a super chat from. We don't get a lot of those, so thank you, Mod
No,
5.
not on this show.
Thank you for being such an awesome advocate for ham radio and an Elmer to us all. Love the channel and content. Well, thank you
Nice.
so
Nice.
much.
Oh,
That's
thank
fantastic.
you.
Thank you.
And
Thank
to all
you.
these hosts,
everybody.
amazing work as well. Just so much fun.
Thank
Boy,
you.
I think Amanda, let's ham
Let's
it or
do
can
it.
I'm
Okay.
ready.
roll it.
All right, let me find the right screen here to share. Okay.
Or you're pulling it up. I just want to share. I think Randy's projects have projects.
Yeah, thank you, Randy.
I do too. This man is always involved in something.
Oh, the
Yeah.
Amazon boxes are piling up and the workbench
Oh,
is
it's
getting
Oh, I'm
big.
crazy.
sure,
There's
yeah.
so many boxes.
My wife says, "What are you getting today?" Heck, well, it's all top secret.
My wife
then
thinks it's
HamSci
Christmas
comes
shopping.
on.
I'm like, no, honey. No, it's
Yeah,
not
that's
Christmas
another one
shopping.
now.
That's hilarious.
I can't wait to watch Randy's grapes build. Okay.
After Quartz Fest. maybe.
Okay. After. Got it. All right, you guys. I sent this to Josh and Don a couple weeks ago, but like I don't know if they really just spelt it this wrong or if this is an AI thing because I cannot stand AI because they always spell something wrong when you're trying to depict to them to make you a picture or something. And you're like, say amateur radio this out and the other, and then it will spell amateur wrong or something.
That's
and
funny.
It's so
2
must have
years
used-
Seems
warranty.
legit.
They must have
Warn
used the
it, T.
separation cable.
Anyhow, I don't even know if that's a real rig, so
No.
That's
I
funny.
don't think so.
Oh,
I
it
don't
is.
think
No,
so.
that's
Okay.
that's a Yaesu.
Is it a Yaesu? Okay,
Yes.
that's why I don't recognize it because I don't use any Yaesus. But so here's some sad news.
Yeah, what
Skyward
a-
Recognition Day has
Yeah, I
been
saw that.
canceled.
What a
Well,
bummer.
that's no
Yes,
good.
bummer.
nationwide, NWS
Yeah.
canceled it, saying that they didn't have. First of all, I just want to highly disagree with this because they don't need any funds to have Skywarn Day. They maybe have a person in the office that can be our handlers when we go there to set up and do Skywarn Recognition Day. So I'm very, very disappointed that they canceled it this year. 'Cause
Absolutely.
Yeah,
boo.
Wait,
NWS.
what goes into Skywarn Recognition Day? What does that even mean?
So It starts on Friday evening and it's 24 hours. And basically, it's so that NWS offices can activate. So they will use their call signs, which here in Pueblo, Colorado, it's WX0PUB. And so they try to contact all the other NWS stations throughout the country, which I can't remember how many there are, but there's quite a few, like 70 or something like that. And so for 24 hours, and it typically doesn't go the whole 24 hours because nobody sets up shop and like brings their sleeping bags into the NWS. So usually Friday evening, you set up the station, then go in first thing Saturday morning, and you're just making contacts and making people aware of your National Weather Service. And again, trying to put the other weather service offices in your logs at the same time. So it's a really great public outreach for Skywarn and the people that support Skywarn, all of us people that have Skywarn numbers. It's just good avocation and public awareness.
I was gonna go full malicious compliance and say just set up in the parking lot, but it sounds like that may not be something you want to do here. So okay, yeah.
It's unfortunate.
I pulled a couple of hour shifts at the Slidell, Louisiana National Weather Service.
And they have a
office
big
number of years ago. Yeah, they do. And that was just the most fun. A pretty good sized pile up outside of field day. I just had the best time doing that. So yeah.
I do too. And it's very close. Some NWSs are pretty far away from other people's QTHs, so it's not always accessible. But okay, let's go to Jim. Jim, come on our show. Answer my emails. Jim Ham on a bike, he's probably going to be key for maybe doing the most POTA activations because he does at least one or two a day. And he always goes out on his bike and he's always on CW. But the funny thing is, time to bring out the fall and winter gear for POTA. Where do you live? Oh my gosh. I mean, it's been cold and like we've needed to like warm up in all of our POTAs here in Colorado for a really long time. So anyhow,
he's Jim, 4. So he may be Alabama. Or
he might be.
Like that.
Jim, come visit us on the show. We want you.
I like him repping the proper cycling hat there too.
I know. He's adorable. Yeah. And he even has like the very coolest QSL card, and I don't even care that I didn't do it. He's just awesome.
Love it.
Okay. This was just some news update. ARRL VEC ready to file 2,500 ham radio license applications. So, my gosh, you guys, I found that crazy that there was 2,500 people waiting to get their licenses. I had no idea in a 5 to 6 week span that many people are getting licensed. That's a lot of new hams.
Wow. Jim is in Louisville, Kentucky, by the way.
There you go. That makes
yours it.
Yeah.
And yes, Jim does ooze personality. I agree. Okay, what is this? Oh, this is just a kind
Tower time. Tower time. Oh, Vern. What's up, Vern? Do I know Vern?
So poor Vern has been working on this situation for 2 years. My God. So he poured the concrete 2 years ago for his tower. And last year he stood up 30-foot tower. And then this year we pulled coax to the tower base. And maybe next year an antenna on the top. Y'all, I don't know if anyone knows this person, but reach out.
I do know Vern. In fact, Vern is well known within the YouTubers. So the fact that he hasn't asked for help, like Vern, you can ask for help. A lot of guys will just drive to your house and get this done.
Man, I'm telling you.
Let's go.
Just put
I put a comment
burgers on the grill, feed these guys, and
he helps us out a lot. He's a good guy.
Oh yeah, I put a comment on this saying that you're out of the solar cycle sync. So by the time he gets this thing done, we'll be in the minimum.
The next solar cycle.
The second thing is that awesome base, dude. You did it right. You did everything the way you were supposed to. And it looks like that's even maybe 4. No, it's probably 3x3. It looks like the size of my base, but beautiful initial setup. So
I guess it's cured by now.
Digital Rancher, big friend of Vern too. Digital Rancher in the chat. Thanks.
Okay, so here's some of my Aurora shots. This is
gorgeous.
I know it's just I've never seen anything like this in Colorado. But here's the money shot. Jeff took.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
That's it. That's a QSL card right there.
Yeah,
that's a QSL card. Absolutely.
Fantastic shot. And there's so much light noise in there too, but it's amazing. So
that's a great picture.
Totally. Okay, here's my save the transmitter, everybody.
Oh, look at that thing with the window.
Isn't it
Big
just so
tube in
like
there.
I thought it was an oven for a second.
You need one, Josh.
it's so classic.
So straight up,
And
my wife, I'm not even kidding, would love this. That aesthetic is such in her wheelhouse, but where the heck would we put it? Like, what do we even
that's
do
the
with
thing.
this?
So it's free to good home, but you have to transport it. And now we went and saw it firsthand and put our hands on
It's
it.
2
And
tons.
I have to. This is it's like this little bunker built behind a house that was converted to our radio station. It was KRLN and KSTY, and you see this copper. This is everywhere, and I'm not going to tell anyone where this is, but this right here, this is all copper screen that surrounds the whole building on the inside to keep the noise from getting out. And it's just, and there was no electricity, so we're just like taking our photos with one person's got like a light on from their phone, and then we're trying to snap pictures of it. But this Collins, it still has the tubes in it.
Oh, there's the
It was
meters. Okay.
it was last turned on December 31st, 2024. They closed the doors January 1st of this year. So, and then here's a couple of like closer up
look at
pictures.
Nice.
Look at that.
That brings back some memories. Yeah.
Save the transmitter, everybody. 1,500
Those things are
pounds.
not light. Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, yeah.
And like
Another
Cordell says,
picture
it worked the last
inside.
time I used it in 1987.
Worked when, ran when parked.
Yeah, you're right, Randy.
Ran great when parked.
You're right.
Famous last words.
It is absolutely beautiful. So help
it
me
is.
save the transmitter, everybody. If you want more information, I'm good on QRZ. And the
Send me
couple that bought
image,
it,
Amanda.
What's that?
Send me that image,
I'll
Amanda.
send
I want to show
I'll
my
send
wife.
you all those.
What's
And
what's the power output on that one? Do you know?
1,500. I
Okay.
Amateur
Okay.
legal.
Yeah.
Now that's questionable. There those 2 tubes in there. Oh boy. And they had options. This is the V20. Anyhow, I'll look up the specs, but it was
Yeah,
at least 1,500 watts.
The first
And-
radio station I worked at was 1,000-watt station, and it was not quite that big, but it did have the tube and the window and everything, and the Jesus stick that you needed to
yeah.
discharge everything in there. When you
So
open
our
the
A,
cabin up,
if
yeah.
there's any AMers watching, Bob would just go nuts.
Oh yeah,
over
he
Oh,
would.
yeah.
Joe
Yeah.
Walsh
He'd
would
be all
too.
over
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Walsh
Um,
may buy that.
This can be converted to run on 160 AM.
Wait, buy.
Mhm.
Amanda said it's free.
Oh well, yeah. Well, if
Yeah.
Joe Walsh wasn't playing at the Sphere in Vegas, he'd run right out there and get it. I bet.
So
Sure,
yes,
fine.
we want to save it. There's also an FM transmitter on there if anyone wants a pirate radio station. So I have photos of that as well if anyone needs it. So-
Tune that boy up on 6 and make a repeater out of it.
Yeah, they look like they may be 4-1000s. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Hear me out. Hear me out. My wife has been bugging me to build a free little library in the front yard for a while now. We put this
Yeah.
thing in the front yard, transmitting AM.
Yes.
And then every time somebody opens it to place a book, it says like, "Thank you very much for placing a book in the KI6NAZ broadcast station."
That's funny.
I do have one person that reached out that said that they were starting a museum, and then they kind of didn't get back to me after I
Beautiful for
said
a
they have to
museum.
figure out transportation. So yes, you have to figure out how to transport this to wherever you want it. That's the only caveat.
Because it's
That's
literally
neat,
like
though.
it's probably very difficult to get into a vehicle because it's pretty big.
100%. And but
It's
you can
probably
pull
over 2 tons, I'm guessing.
you
or
can
three
get
It's
you
tons.
can
1,500
rent-
pounds. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
so
can
it's-
rent
okay.
a
It's a
forklift,
ton.
and you could probably crate it up in. Well, actually, you think you have to pull it out of this building and then crate it up, and then you can transport it. But it's doable. It's tight. It's tight to squeeze it out of this building, but it's possible.
Vern is in the chat. Vern is in the chat, Amanda. You summoned Vern. I think Digital Rancher did it. You summoned him. He's
That's
here.
funny.
He's here. So
It's hilarious.
Hey, Vern.
Vern, I'm just trying to help you out, man.
Vern, come to Quartz
Amanda
Fest.
says
Come to
your
Quartz Fest.
window for antenna is too long. We need to figure out how to decrease the window. Otherwise, there's
Yeah.
going to be no solar cycle left for you, bud. We're going to be
That's
in the
right.
minimum.
I'm very concerned about this. We got to get you on the air, man. And then we're gonna have to have you're gonna have to host a special event for took me the longest to get my antenna up after putting a tower in.
Yeah, I just saw he had posted a little while ago that he's hunkered down in some shelter out there in Texas. He's out camping and there's a huge storm and he's in a
Oh no.
campsite where apparently the power lines got hit by lightning or something a few
Oh,
years
no.
ago and he got zapped and he's
Oh, that's right. Yes, that happened. That's
Yeah.
yes, yeah, that was the thing.
so
Well, then he knows all about grounding. I didn't see much grounding in that
He
tower
was
install,
grounded.
but
He was standing
Or he
on the
should.
ground.
he just climbed down the hole.
oh boy, oh my gosh, we've got
Vern
so
needs
long.
the AM
We've got to
transmitter. That's really what
So
I think
funny.
we're all getting to right now is Vern needs the AM
okay.
transmitter.
Reach out about the transmitter, you guys. And that's it. We got to wrap it up.
New
Whew,
record.
it's been a long- I
New
think it
record
has
for
been
the
a new
live stream,
record.
I think, here, guys. New record for Ham Nation. But
Nice.
yeah, we are way long. Amanda, do we need to mention the nets or are they already over?
We got D-Star is running on 14 Charlie's. He's probably being very, very patient. Thank you.
Go to
So go
14
join on
Charlie.
that. And I saw Tom Ritter in the chat. Tom, I'm going to send you an email that I've been meaning to send for a month now, and that's on me. That's my bad. So anyhow, happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah.
Get on the air if you have a couple of those days off, and listen for Gordo on
Gordo
10
on 10
meters.
meters, yeah.
Yep. And I'm going hunting. Jeff's already out there, so headed out. We'll be playing radio while he's looking for an elk this weekend.
There you go.
All right.
Excellent.
Everybody, we got lots of news this Saturday. Some big things coming up, big events, huge events. So join us on the the show on Saturday. But everybody, thanks for watching. Thanks to the hosts. Thanks, Randy, for coming back again with new updates.
Thank you, Hamsai.
Thank you, Hamsai. Yeah,
Thanks,
we
Gary.
will
Yeah.
talk to
Thank
you
you all.
2 weeks. We'll see you again. 73.
We're extremely thankful for every one of you people who have been watching us
Oh,
for what, like
our
14 years now?
Our viewers are what makes it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we're here. Thank you. We love you.
73. See ya.
73.